Hey folks, BJ and Game Day back again for another week. You got Brent, you got Joshy. King, how are you, brother?
Yeah, good, buddy. Good. A little bit dirty after last week, mate. I think I sort of scored solid enough around that 13:30, but mate, I'm just dropping like flies. I'm well outside the top 2,000 now. I think I'm about 2,600. So, whereas last year, obviously, I made that run into the finals with plenty of good players. This year, it's sort of going the opposite. I haven't got blokes like Manu Mao or Johnny Bateman, and it's hurting, mate. So. Yeah, what about yourself, mate? You had a good week last week?
Yeah, bud, good week, 1446. Obviously, can't complain with that at all. I think it was pretty much par, 1400 was, pretty much on the mark this week. I think I jumped maybe 700 spots, so I think I'm around that top 5K or something, but nothing to write home about, bud. Yeah, it's been crazy this year, some of the scores. To think 1440 was, not really much of a score, to be fair. Can't complain, but won't complain. At least I'm not going to drop out to the 10K yet. But, we'll see what happens. Hopefully I can get a bit closer in that 2.5K.
I think we sort of talked about it throughout the season, an ultra competitive season. I think a lot of people, obviously, looking at Supercoach and learning those sort of players to avoid and the ones to have throughout the season. And I guess the start of the season really set it up with the amount of cheapies that we had. You sort of get that cash flow. And, you could sort of just pick your 2021 going into these last few rounds. And, unfortunately, like myself, I've missed out on those one or two each week that have sort of cost me. Manu Mao's been in great form, and Johnny Bateman, obviously. I think those two guys, I had them in my team at some time during the season, and selling that was probably the biggest mistake I could have made. But, plenty of guys up there. I don't like to use the sort of, the term where a lot of people are talking about how all the teams are the same, but they're definitely very similar up there, and plenty of blokes scoring sort of 1,500 points each week.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting now, and a few of the head-to-heads. Obviously, you might have 3 or 4 different. There's still some quality in those pods, like guys like Cherry Evans, Fanua Blake, Madison. There's a few of those sort of guys around, but. It's pretty much captain choices and literally 2 or 3 blokes in all of the leagues I'm in, which is a bit of a shame. But I guess if you get in front, it's easy to make sure of a win. Or the other guy forces his hand to have to do something they might not want to do, like change the captain up or something. But like you said, I think just the abundance of really good cheapies that ended up turning into pretty much keepers, and even went ongoing through the middle of the year. There was. Uncanny. So it's made everyone have like a lot more money to spend than straight swaps guys like Sivo to, Latrells and stuff like that. So it's been a crazy year.
Mate, games wise, obviously last week head to heads, the league you're in, mate. Obviously 1446 should have kept you in good stead, mate. Few wins.
Yeah, but I think it pretty much come down to that Sunday. So I had a lot riding on the Chooks game and then the Cronulla game as well. And, I got home in all of them, believe it or not. So I'm in 3 cash head-to-heads, and I managed to get the win in all 3 of them. So a little bit riding on Jerry and Johnson at one point. So the Jerry pass to Johnson where he's dropped it cold and he would have run straight under the 6 in about the 30th minute or something. I was seething because I could have had it wrapped up right about then. But a bit of karma with that one with the try to Jerry to seal it for the Sharks at the end, which is off a Johnson kick, which Wade Graham, in my opinion, touched it. It did glance off the arm there, but they missed it. So
can we talk about that for a second?
Yeah.
Because the way I looked at it, I definitely thought it touched his arm, right? I 100%, and obviously Wade Graham's come out and said it did touch him.
Mm.
Did it still go back?
I did see that as well. In my eyes, if you have a look at where it hits Graham in the arm, where he's standing and where Jerry catches the ball, the ball's going backwards still. Even though the trajectory of the ball bounces forward, which is sort of hard to describe. If you have a look exactly where it hits Graham's arm, where he's standing and where Jerry catches the ball, it's still back.
Yeah. And this is what, I sort of had the discussion with a few people on Facebook, and I 100%, even before obviously Wade Graham had come out and said he touched it on the Monday or after the game, I thought, 100% he's touched it, but I just saw it going back. I don't know. obviously you get those sort of 50-50 calls. Some go for you, some go against you.
I guess
just happen to be 3 minutes from time and win the game for them.
The alarming thing for me is it wasn't quite clear on field. Did they say he didn't touch it or it was inconclusive or whatever? Like, if they're saying he hasn't touched that ball, there's something wrong there. I mean, everyone can see that he's touched it, but if if the decision was, he's touched it, but it's gone back, which I don't know if that's what they got to, but the concern for me is like, we see these ones week in, week out where they touch the ball and somehow they still manage to not get to that call.
Yeah. I was actually out at a venue, so I couldn't sort of hear any of the commentary or anything like that. I was just watching it on the screen and obviously there was replay after replay after replay. And I think they finally got to a replay where it sort of showed that Wade Graham's hand or sort of forearm did bend and the trajectory of the ball changed. But I just still look at it and think it went backwards. But anyhow, it's done now. Well, I was
still filthy with Johnson getting docked the try assist for the Fecky try as well, because he got docked 20 points just before lockout ended, which didn't cost me, but I'm still... I don't know if you've seen that footage or if you're aware of what happened, but how Johnson doesn't get that try assist is still beyond me. It's a fucking joke, to be honest, but that's Supercoach. But, safe.
Yeah, look, I saw the try, but from memory, look, I haven't gone back to it, and I can't really remember, but I know there was plenty of people blowing up about it, so... generally, when that happens, there is sort of some justification, and it should have gone the other way and not been reversed. But same as you, mate. I was lucky in one of my leagues. Actually, I went from about 30 points up, and after the down dates to both Jerry and Johnson, I only won by about 2 points. So I was pretty lucky there. But mate, last week's games, the Thursday night, we kicked off, and this was just all Manly, really. I think they could have won by a lot more, but they just couldn't get across the try line in that first half too much. I think they led 18-6 at half time, and it sort of could have been 30-6. They had plenty of opportunities. Tommy Trebojevic having a massive score with 117 and didn't manage to cross the try line himself. So big dominant game from him. Adam Fanua-Blake, obviously, with 95 points, went really well. And a little bit of return to form for my guy, Nofaluma. Managed to score pretty well there with 79. Thoughts on this game, mate?
Yeah, mate, the Nofaluma try was a schmick one there. A nice little play there from the Tigers to put Nofaluma through. But I think, like you said, I think Manly could have won by a lot more. I think I saw a stat they had over 60-something% possession, which is pretty crazy when you think the Tigers. That means they've only had 30-something% possession.
Yeah.
So in the modern game, that's insane.
I was actually watching this game with Reedy. He'd had 250 on the overs at 40.5. And I think it ended up 44 points, but that try with about 3 or 4 minutes to go sealed it for him. So, mate, he was jumping around like a crazy man. But, So Friday night, we had the first game, and I can't remember who played. This was a bit of a... I want to forget these games because every Parramatta game I look at, Manu fucking Mao plays brilliant, and I just don't have him anymore, and it makes me sick.
Yeah, mate, I think this one as well. I watched it. I watched a bit of this one, obviously, being the first game on the Friday. I traded Mao in this week. I was on the fence around, do I keep me trades? Do I not? Do I bring him in? Do I don't? If he gets 50 or 60, I've made the right call by not bringing him in. I did bring him in, and thank fuck for that, is all I can say. Cause
you're blessed.
I'll take it, mate. If I start getting blessed at this time of the year and I somehow manage to pull off a cash comp with him, I'll fucking take it all day long. And I think, like you said, I think early on, I think Parramatta was sort of playing as if they, thought they should have won. They had a couple of early penalties, didn't take the 2, and it didn't click straight away. But they ended up getting on with it. And Mitchell Moses was massive. Obviously, Manu Mao was huge. It was all Parramatta in the end. I feel a bit for the Titans. There's not much to play for them at this point of the year. Feel for the coach as well, but they're going to just get absolutely rolled for the next 3 weeks, and they got a big task against Melbourne this weekend. I cringe being a non-Munster owner and anyone that has him against me in the head-to-head.
Mate, I reckon Melbourne could probably rest half their team and still win by 40. Gold Coast just looked that bad, so we'll see how that goes there. Second game on the Friday night, and this was I don't know what to make of this game. Payne Haas was huge. Look, that individual run that he put on, absolutely massive. 112 points there. Most people have him as, I think he's about 60% of ownership. Asako and Staggs, sort of a little bit disappointing with these two blokes. If Asako sort of, I know he obviously had those family dramas where I think someone passed away in that, but if they could have had this combination sort of right from the start of the season, Broncos might have been a little bit higher up on the ladder.
Yeah, it was a big game as well in the context of that ladder, and Payne Haas broke it open with that try. Crazy to think he's only, 19 years old or something like that, mate. Like, the kid's going to just be an absolute superstar. Imagine him with, another couple of years of pre-seasons and stuff into him. He's just going to be an absolute monster. But yeah, even Staggs, mate, like he's just owning it now. He's owning that centre position for him there. He looks like a bit of a powerhouse, little sort of pocket rocket sort of thing.
Is that his preferred position?
I think so. I mean, I'm not entirely sure what he is, but he looks pretty good out there.
Because I remember when he sort of came into first grade last season, he played on the wing and then the utility and then the second row and centre. I'm just not too sure sort of with his history where he actually came from and what positions he played, I guess, in club footy before he got to the Broncos. So, yeah. And who'd they play? Penrith. Not too many good scores here from Penrith.
Yeah, it was a bit of a nothing for Penrith really happening. Supercoach wise, I think. Brian too. Obviously, was the top scorer. He scored a try there at one point to keep him in the game, but pretty standard. Fisher Harris is pretty much appearing at the top of their list. Had a breakout year for sure.
Is Payne Haas a rookie this year? He's not, is he?
He played a couple. He only played like a couple last year and got injured. He did his shoulder. So he might have played less than 5. So I don't know if he technically qualifies, but
I'm not too sure who'd sort of fall under the Rookie of the Year category. But if this Brian Tuo isn't in the first 2 or 3, he's been absolutely awesome this season. I know he sort of only kicked off about 6 or 7 or 8 games in, but to me, he's probably been one of the most impressive players all season. Supercoach aside, just in the NRL in general.
Well, and the only other one I can think of really quickly off the top of my head, if he could learn to catch a footy, though, is Jerry. Jerry's been huge as well. But, yeah, I don't know if Haas is technically Rocky or not. If he is, he's walk up Rookie of the Year, right?
Yeah. First game on the Saturday, mate, the 3 p.m. game. And
you
got to put these up quick. Oh,
beauty. We're back, baby.
6. I was a bit surprised, actually. I missed the first half of this game. And once sort of Ponga scored that try, I think he might have scored 2, did he? I thought this was the week he was going to go sort of 150 plus. And then he sort of the last 20 minutes, half hour, didn't really get involved.
Yeah, and there was another one where Watson went through and held the ball up a bit too long, and he actually threw a forward pass. So he could have gone in again earlier than that, and then who knows, it could have been anything. But, yeah, I think for us, obviously, there was a bit of struggle going on with this one in terms of how we were going. So hopefully, that one gives them a bit of confidence and they can charge on into the next week against the Tigers, which is another huge game in the context of the 8. I think Watson, he's out. That's a big out for us. He's awesome at hooker. I really like him at hooker. I know we've signed Jaden Brayley for next season, but for me, he looks so much like someone like Damien Cook coming out. He's so quick. I know I'm not saying he is Damien Cook. That's a big call, but just his speed out of dummy half when there's a quick play of the ball, he just adds another dimension to our attack. It's a real shame that he's going to be out for the next 3 to 4 weeks because I just think he's a hooker, but I don't know now that Jaden's coming there. But yeah, good for us to get the Mickey off the back.
I guess the big thing with Watson when I look at him, I don't think he's got the structure that good hookers have got. I definitely think he's got the X factor. And you talk about Cookie, obviously what he can do and break a play open and stuff. Watson's got that in spades, but I just don't think he's got that structure where I guess the Cam Smiths and now what Damien Cook's developing where you can run a game.
Game management. Yeah, that's a good call.
Yeah. Hopefully he can sort of develop that and, he's given the chance to. But as you say, with Jaden Brayley coming across from the Sharks, he's obviously an up-and-coming player. Whether they run a sort of, dual hooker off the bench kind of thing, but I'm sure Brayley will turn into an 80-minute hooker. So they might just have to find another spot for Connor Watson where he's just as effective.
Yeah, and I think, like I said, I think it's a really good call. He's not a game manager at all. He's just got that X factor for us. But I'm a big fan of Jaden Brayley. I can't believe we've signed him. But Watson probably hasn't ever trained a preseason hooker or spent much time at all. But you got someone like Danny Vidiris floating around the club. There's definitely not a lack of tutorage around there. But anyway, we're moving on. Apart from the news of Brown being moved on by the end of the season, mate. But
look, obviously that's going to change a few things depending on who comes on as coach next year. Signing Brayley, if they sort of take on a different coach that isn't a fan, well, I mean, I don't know how you couldn't be a fan, but could be some shake-ups there, and we'll wait and see. Mate, talk to me actually before we go on to the next game. Talk to me about Mitch Barnett, mate. Now, I've been a big fan of Mitch for a few years. He obviously had that breakout season in Supercoach. I think it was back in 16 where he was really good. 17 and 18, he was probably below par for what we'd come to expect and sort of became a little bit of a forgotten player. Started off this season a bit slow again, but I reckon probably the past 6 weeks he's been one of the most impressive players and huge pod material if anyone had have brought him in. I think it's a little bit hard to bring him in now once he's had those scores on the board, but what are your thoughts there, mate?
Yeah, I think absolutely. I believe that he was originally a Newcastle boy. He went to Canberra, got his chance, and then we signed him back, and then he had that breakout year. I didn't know much about him. But, I think the last couple of years he's sort of had some issues with injury, trying to get that management of his body right, but he looks like he's, on the right path with all that now. So, and he's an absolute weapon for us out on the right edge, as much as Fitzgibbon has been an attacking weapon on the left, which he's actually been pretty quiet this season. He adds so much starch on that right edge for us, not only in defence because he's a good defender, but hits holes really well and runs off Pearce really well. Obviously, we saw that on the weekend and can do it against the good teams. He runs those brave lines and he isn't afraid to hit a hole and cop a shot, which we really need. So if he's on song, he's definitely one of the leaders in our pack with Clemmer. It adds a real different dynamic to us as well, which will be really interesting. If we can get a bit of confidence back, I know, if we don't have the squad to take it out, but I think if they can get a bit of, headstrong again, they could get a bit of belief and cause some real issues if they can just find that spot in the 8, which they have a pretty good run home, but we'll find out a lot against the Tigers this weekend.
Yep. Second game on the Saturday, and absolute cracker. Probably one of the games of the year considering what transpired. Jackie White and Joseph Tarpanay getting sin bin in the first 20 minutes. Obviously, Jack was a little bit unlucky, just the reflex tackle with a penalty and sort of inside that 10 metres. So he saw 10 in the bin. Game 150 for Jack as well. So a little bit of an interesting one there, a good milestone. Get sin bin, and then one of the comebacks of the decade. Like Ivan, considering the team that they were up against in the Melbourne Storm in Melbourne.
Down 18-0.
I've got to say, mate, I think it's the greatest comeback I've ever seen. Look, obviously, I'm only 30. I've been watching probably rugby league since the early 90s. But, this is just considering everything. Put in there the opposition. I've seen comebacks by 30 in that, but when you're up against, probably the best team in the last sort of 15 years, led by the greatest coach in the last sort of 10 or 15 years, I reckon it's probably one of the greatest performances I've ever seen.
Yeah, mate, and I heard a stat some midway through that game or whatever. It was like Melbourne have never lost a game. I don't know if it was in Melbourne or even ever, leading 18-0, ever.
That's pretty easy to sort of believe, because, I mean, you'd like to think most teams, you're up 18-0, you're not going to lose, but, yeah.
Against Melbourne, absolutely. And the way they did it, like I said, they had the 2 sin bins in the first 20 minutes, which, in this day and age is insane. They would have had their confidence bashed early because they did go down early. But it just goes to show, they were $3 outsiders last week. We talked about it, and I didn't think that was just for the Raiders. And they showed, I reckon, obviously they are the real deal.
I reckon, and Melbourne used the sin bin to their advantage. Like they scored once in each 10-minute period. They led 12-0. As you say, they were up 18-0. I reckon 18-0 up, you probably could have got about $12 or $15 on the Raiders. Like, I wasn't sort of following the punter or live betting or anything like that, but you would have got some massive odds. But it just goes to show, obviously, what sort of culture Ricky's created over the time, the English boys that he's brought in. Mate, we're obviously both from Canberra, and you see it sort of down there. It's definitely, you look at the Viking clap and the culture in the town at the moment. Everyone's really, you always love a winner, so they've definitely got the hometown support behind them at the moment.
Yeah, and that's a big win. That's going to instill a lot of belief into them this close to finals. That's a big one for the Sheds as well. So going to be really, really interesting to see how they mix it up at the end of the year. They might, every chance they're still in the running for a home final as well. So
definitely. And wrapping up the games on the Saturday night, look, this was just a dour affair. I watched maybe 20 minutes of this. I think it was 2-2 at halftime or something like that. Rabbitohs never scored a try. 3 penalty goals. The only shining light was for Supercoach is that Cookie managed to score 82. So huge effort from him. But the Doggies winning 3 in a row. I'm not going to say they're back because they still got Dean Pay as a coach. But, massive effort from the Doggies. And good to see and good for their fans. Obviously, it's been a pretty tough season. Mathematically, they can still make the 8. So I think that's absolutely sensational. And if they could, alongside Canberra beating Melbourne, this will be one of the comebacks of the all time as well.
Yeah, and they've I think we said it last week again. They've turned into a side that are just going to cause some headaches. They've found a bit of starch in their D. They're smothering team. They're just playing tough and getting the job done. They beat the Tigers last week as well. And how does this South Sydney side not score a single try against the Dogs when you got guys like Damien Cook and Walker and Roberts and Cam Murray and Sam Burgess? I mean, it's mind-boggling. But credit to the Dogs, and it plays a big spanner in the works for Rabbits. I don't know what's going on there, but they're on the big slide.
Yeah. Mate, apparently Sammy Burgess, he's re-injured something. I missed the part where he was actually injured in the game. Any news there, mate?
Yeah, so I think it was something with the quad, or I don't know if it was Hemi related, but there was a break and he's gone after the bloke with the ball and he's pulled up lame, trying to chase him down. He has been named back up this week. He's expected to play, so he's been named prop again, but it's an interesting one. I wouldn't have thought they'd want to risk him if it's that sort of injury where if he, maybe it's a low risk injury in terms of what he can actually do to it again. Because I would have thought he's probably the sort of bloke you want pretty fresh for finals. Yeah. So whether he actually plays or not, I don't know. But he has been thrown into the front row, which is pretty interesting. And he was last week as well.
Probably from a Supercoach point of view, one of the biggest disappointments of the season. I think the way he played there at times last season, there was that expectation with Bennett coming on that he would thrive. I don't think he's ever seen a lower price in the last 4 or 5 years than he has this season. Injuries, suspensions. I sort of count myself lucky. I've never had him at any stage this season, but I know plenty of people have.
Yeah, and he promised so much. The talk of him starting back out on the edge, and I think he pumped out a bumper early, like a ton 120 or something. I think there was something there, wasn't there? Like he went large early, and he would have baited a lot of people because then it was like you said, suspensions. His discipline's just second to none. He's an absolute idiot, but that's the pommy in him, that aggression. That's what he brings to a side. But he's 100%. I got him in one of our draft comps, mate, and it's killing me. It's burning my piss after whether I play him or not this week. And yeah, it's been a massive letdown. But if the Bunnies are going to turn it around, he's going to be a big part of it. And he's got to be sort of leading them through it. So.
Mate, you talk about that aggression and that sort of thing that Pommies are bringing in. That's what I actually love about John Bateman. I've watched him fairly close this season. He's got all that aggression, but he looks like he's always in complete control. He's just out there having fun, and he knows that basically if he tees off on anyone, he's going to knock them. So I love watching Johnny Bateman. He's brilliant, and Sammy could actually probably learn a little bit from that. Yeah,
I saw him rolling around with Cameron Smith on the weekend. There was something happened where he got tangled up with Smith on the ground, and then he's grabbed him and held him down. He is a funny looking, he's definitely the sort of bloke where you probably wouldn't want to start him. He reminds me of that Green Street hooligan type character, but he'd just go mental on you if he needed to. But he's got a really good personality, and he's tough as they come. Like I said, it's real controlled, but those Burgess boys have got none of it.
Yeah. And the first game on the Sundays, the Roosters had an absolutely massive win against the Warriors. It took them a little bit of a while to get going. Warriors got out to a 6-0 lead in the first 5 minutes. But once they did, really, really solid performance here. As you can see, 4 really top scorers there. Most teams having Tedesco and Latrell Mitchell. And a few, anyone who sort of, I guess, showed that loyalty in Angus Crichton returned a bit of favour there. So he's a huge pot. Another one like Mitch Barnett. Guys who have proved themselves in Supercoach before, but gone through a little bit of a lull in form. He could be a massive pod coming in. RTS, Roger Tuivasa-Sheck scored a try early and had a solid 63. But, with the form that sort of Teddy and Turbo are showing, obviously Turbo's returned to form this week. You definitely want that Teddy-Turbo combination, I think, at this stage. RTS up against the Sharks could do something, but, mate, another massive win from the Roosters. They've had some huge, huge wins this year. And, mate, I think your little tactic of having the whole Roosters left-hand side is starting to come good, mate. You obviously, Cordner's been out and Crichton's been playing in his spot.
Yeah, it sort of sucked because this was the time I was hoping to leverage off Cordner. So, he's been out. He missed the Titans game. He missed all these other games, so I just got canned him, which was a bit of a shame. But I traded out Tupou on the weekend as well because he was getting the scores of 60s or 70s, but I was hoping he might go 100 pluses. He's banged out a near 90 or something like that last week, but I was just having trouble, so I traded him out. But I didn't actually get to see this game, so I was score gazing Supercoach scores because I had Teddy as captain and had Kiri, and it was a bit of Supercoach porn really. Every time I looked, it was like, oh, Kiri scored a try, oh. Latrell's gone in. Oh, Teddy scored one. So I was pretty happy about that. And given I needed a few of them to come home for me strong, I was pretty happy and managed to get home to watch the Sharkies game. So, and they have the thing about them, and I didn't want to tell anyone about this, but it's have a look at when they've played at the SCG. Every time they play at the SCG this year, they have absolutely thumped whoever it is. It doesn't matter.
And, mate, most of the times, it's been a Sunday or a Saturday afternoon, 2 or 3 o'clock, dry footy, and, mate, Teddy absolutely thrives. Mitchell, you can sort of guarantee he's going to score a try and 6 or 7 goals. It's a little bit of a thing. So people may want to look at that next season for any kind of scheduling and who they play because there'll be some massive games and, again, some massive points. One thing I would point out, actually, mate, like you, we speak to Kane Anderson a fair bit, Dr. Kayando. Speaking to him throughout the weekend, he sort of made a bit of a tough decision whether to play Kiri or Tupou because he had both of them as sort of that last player. He ended up making the right call with Kiri. I think he scored slightly more, but Tupou bagged that meat pie towards, I think it was about the last 45 seconds, which jumped him up. But and it's funny because we were discussing, I sort of would have gone Tupou. I mentioned to him, and the reason being, I think it's probably justified. But Tupou, I think he dropped about 3 or 4 balls, and normally he's great under the high ball. There was 2 or 3 bombs there in attack where he just dropped them cold, or they went over the top of him and he just didn't see them. But I reckon he probably could have gone another 2 tries in there and maybe 130, 140 plus.
Yeah, I'm a bit nervous because he has the 130 in him every now and then. He hasn't done it this season, so he's due, and they do play St. George this week. So I sort of cringe
Is it?
trading him out, but he can pump
Is
out a
it?
40. And at this time of
Did
year,
you
it's going
drop
to be real
him
crucial.
for Mao?
Yeah, so I traded him and Cordner so I could spend a little bit more money. I brought in Sion Mataudia because he's a dual second row centre, and it meant I only had $400 left in the bank, and my OCD, that felt a little bit better in my brain, only having $400 left in the cap as opposed to trading out, say, Croker in Cordner and bringing in some centre second row Nufty and having 70 grand in the bank. So I probably, woulda, coulda, shoulda kept Tupu, but I just didn't. And it made the decision nicer. I struggled every week around who I need to play. I thought if I trade out Tupu for Mataudia, I'm never going to play Mataudia. The decision's there for me. He's ended up having a bit of a blinder on the weekend because they put him on the wing, but mainly to keep that. So I've now got Johnny Bateman, Nakora, Meow, and Mataudia, who are all, I've got two of them in each spot. Two in the second row, two in the centres, so I can get a bit of move durability around there.
Change them if you need to. Yeah, fair enough. And the final game, mates, as we discussed earlier, Cronulla getting up 18-12 over the Dragons. Controversial try there at the end to Bronson Xerri. From a Supercoach point of view, look, not too much in this game. A few people have still got Ewan Aiken. He was solid enough. Interesting, though, come out today in the news that the Dragons have told him and Matt Duffy they're both welcome to talk to other clubs. So that's a little bit interesting. 12, 18 months ago, sort of at the start of last season, Ewan Aiken behind Latrell was probably the best centre winger in the game. He was just he was on fire, and he's had a bit of a lull in form since then. Bronson Xerri went solid. We talked about, obviously, SJ being downdated those 20-odd points. That was a bit of a tough one for his owners to swallow. But, mate, not too much relevant in Supercoach for this one.
Oh, I was dark because I had so much riding on Nakora, Johnson and Xerri. They were all over him early. They just couldn't get it over. I think Xerri got held up a couple of times. There was obviously the one where Xerri went through and SJ's just dropped it cold. I was dark because I thought they're not going to get it done here, and they should have been all over him, and it ended up being a really tight contest to the end.
You talked about it. Xerri's ability is huge. Like, he is going to be sensational. But, God, he's got a drop ball in him.
Oh, if he doesn't roll up a kilo of butter on his fingers before he runs out, I'm dead set not here. But you give him any room, he's gone. It's unbelievable how quick he is off the mark. And he's really dangerous, really, really dangerous. I think Luciano Leilua was absolutely massive for the Dragons. It'd be really good to see. Obviously, it's not nice what's happening with JDB at the moment. But he's going to be an absolute superstar if he can lock down a starting spot. Eventually, he's such a handful out on the edge. He's got the offloads in him, probably too much. But he's awesome. I can't wait to see him develop over the next few years as well.
No, definitely, mate, definitely. What do we got after that, Bogan? Trades. Obviously, last week we just spoke about Hampton's trade. Oh, no, next week's games. Fuck, I can't read them.
Interesting this week, mate. There's some big calls, obviously, for any of those that are still, in head-to-heads, depending on if you finish in the top four, you might have got the week off, but if you were playing sudden death, you play again this week. So, some interesting calls coming up with teams playing with who you play in terms of, do you play guys like Gutherson against the Dogs? That's a question I got for myself. That's going to be an interesting one. The Dogs have been playing a lot of smothering footy, so some tough calls there. It should be an interesting one on Thursday.
You got to be a brave person if you're going to go against. If you've got either Munster or Smith. Now, obviously Cam Smith, if they get sort of 40 or 50 clear, he'll get hooked with 15 to go. But if they're 40 or 50 clear with 15 to go, he's already scored 100, 120 points.
Yeah.
Surely you got to go Munster or Smith as captain.
Yeah, I cringe, as I said this week, being a non-Munster owner. This is really going to sting in any head-to-heads of people that have him, or because this is the week that you got to throw it on Munster, I reckon.
The only other thing I can think of is possibly SJ against the Warriors, Saturday afternoon footy at Shark Park. The Sharks at times look brilliant. I think in that Dragons game on Sunday there was about 17 errors each for both teams. Like they they couldn't hold on to the ball. Like you say, Cronulla had that much pressure on the Dragons' line. It's due to break through a few. So he could be an option as well, or maybe the VC option into a Munster or Smith captain.
Yeah, look, I mean, I look at some of those games. You got obviously the Cowboys taking on Penrith on the Friday, not much doing there. Brisbane South, probably not much doing there in terms of captains, unless you want to put your balls out on Cookie or something like that. I think a dry track at Cronulla, like you said, potentially Ponga up against the Tigers, but he doesn't play for 80. He doesn't do what you want him to do for 80 minutes, basically. I still think the Chooks, any of those guys still against St. George, there should be an interesting one if it's a dry track, but it's got to be a Smith or a Munster, doesn't it? And you're spot on. I think 15 to go, Smith's getting hooked if they're up by 20 even. Even if it's 24-0, he's gone. But crazy head-to-head odds we have there as well. Titans $9.40. That's probably a bit flattering. You can get $1.08 on Melbourne load up, but and then I think game of the round to finish it.
Winks odds, but you'll take it.
Game of the round to finish it off, bud, with Canberra taking on Manly here on Sunday afternoon, which should absolutely be a cracker. Another tantalising
they'll get a
pre-finals
huge crowd there for 4 o'clock afternoon game there on Sunday.
Absolutely.
Definitely. So, what have we got, Bogan? Go next.
Change places! Change places!
Yeah, look, like all my pods this week, I don't even know if it's a pod, I haven't checked figures, and I'm just getting on the bandwagon from the weeks before, but, guys that are playing well at the moment, Mitch Moses for me, mate, last week, I know it was only against the Titans, but I think anything that Parramatta do when they're going through this bloke, and, he's got the kicking game, he's got the running game, he's got the passing game. Obviously, we know what he's capable of, but he was just someone I thought, the next few weeks he's probably, I know he's in quite a few teams already, but, and you probably preferably have him last week. It's always the nature of these ones, but he's been really good, and I think if Parramatta are doing anything, it's pretty much going through him.
Yeah. Mate, I actually didn't text through Bogan with my pods. He'll put Leeson up now.
Back.
I fucking knew he would. He's back, Leeson. Mate, we talked about it. My 2 pods, I'd have either Angus Crichton or Mitch Barnett. If people have got some trades left and you're looking for that pod either head-to-head or, as we spoke about, the only doubt there is obviously when Cordner comes back. I haven't checked team list whether he's back this week or not. I'm not too sure. But, now that he's hit form, Angus Crichton, he's definitely that kind of player that'll just keep getting better and better. He's got that confidence back. And the same with Mitch Barnett. Once these guys get injury-free and sort of, find their role in a team where they're scoring Supercoach points, it'll just continue. So either of those guys for mine. Social media pages on Twitter at BJ and GameDay. Facebook, you can get us on BJ and GameDay. And the Supercoach group code for anyone, 701371. You can still join. Over the next coming weeks, obviously, we'll announce. Well, we won't sort of announce, but we'll sort of wrap up this season and transition into next season and what groups and what leagues will be available and things like that. So we'll keep everyone up to date. But if you don't hear anything, jump on the Twitter and Facebook pages over the off season. We'll keep everything up to date there as well. Mate, the BJ League, and we spoke about it. Dr. Kayena, now he's absolutely filthy. He finished the round on 15:07. He got updated at one stage, so I think about 15:12, and then the Cronulla down dates came in, and he lost 20 odd points on SJ, like a few people did. He was absolutely stoked to crack 1500 for the first time, and he got dragged right back down. So, but still a massive week from Kano. Mark, the fucking Cowboys, solid week.
I'm questioning whether the SJ turns into a Marnie gate where they actually recredit some points, but given it was so much, I don't think they can.
Mate, I reckon it's a dangerous thing to do this late in the season. I know Marnie was sort of round 7 or 8 or whatever it was. I think it's too dangerous. Look, at the end of the day, we're getting the 2 or 3 weeks left. There's guys vying for $50,000. Yeah, I don't reckon they'll go near that.
No, they
reckon
open
they'll
up
just
a can of worms for themselves, don't they? But
yeah.
well done, Kendo.
And, mate, huge effort again from Charlie White, the Bunnings Snags. Continues to go massive for the league. So he's definitely repping us well. I think he's about 45th overall. So another huge week for him with 1464. And he continues to lead the league, obviously, with the same kind of scoring. You'll notice a new addition there, the top three. The Psycho
Stevie
Circus,
Woods.
after another dismal week, has
Kidding.
dropped out. I'm down to 4th. The boys just... Mate, 6 weeks ago, I've called that I'm going to beat the Bunnings Snags. I think I was about 150 behind him at the time. I'm now 800 points behind him. He is just absolutely just gone to another level, Charlie White. And so, yeah, well done to him. Rangers de Janeiro continues to hang in there, and he tails me up as well. And, yeah, Stevie Woods up into 3rd place.
Shout out to the Snags, bud.
Head-to-head results, and what have we got for last week? Oh, the Armel Cup. Fucking hell. Who won? Oh, because you guys, this is the guys who didn't make the 16. So Brendo finished 17th. Tunnel Snakes finished 18th. We're not worried about those fucking losers in second last and last spot.
Bogan can't even win the Armel Cup.
Bogan, what did you score? 1250 odd. There you go. The Armel Cup, that's what we're going to call it. All right. We'll continue that in seasons to come. But what do we have? The top 8? Oh, no, we've got the minor.
This was the bottom 8. Bottom 8.
Bottom 8. So we got What's a Pod went down to the fucking Cowboys. I managed to get over Gangsters Gagas, even though my score was, well, miserable considering the scores that were out there. Mate, you got over the top of Ginger. And, yeah, Dr. K-Ando with that top score for the week accounted for Pete top, Kevin bottom. Worry about that all stuff later. Go to the top 8, mate. They're the blokes who have actually performed this season. Rangers de Janeiro continued his good form. He actually got over Marty. That was a really tight game the whole way through the weekend. So, yeah, it just managed to hold on. Bunnings Snags, he actually gave my prediction there an absolute kicking. He destroyed Wayne with Hell's Grannies. And Checkmate got knocked out. And Leanne with Fire and Ice, she continues. Big Ted out the door. Finishes in 8th spot, Big Ted. So, Leanne, she'll take on Marty's team this week. And Stevie Woods double demon takes on Hell's Grannies. Wayno with the second chance after the lucky loser.
A lot riding
and as
on
you
this
can
one, mate,
expect,
for the
top 2 lads, Rangers de Janeiro and Bunnings Snags, get the bye this week and straight through to the preliminary final.
They all want to get their hands on that Carmichael Hunt or the Marky Gasnier figurine, I can tell.
Decent. Stokey's All-Star score. What did he score?
1366.
Jeez, that doesn't even worth mentioning. Fuck. Sorry to all our fans out.
Stokey's All-Stars was the top ranked player we haven't mentioned before on the show. Obviously,
mate, you're like the kids that get fucking participation awards at the things.
Oh mate,
we haven't mentioned on the show before. Let's give you a trophy for finishing last.
I want the participants in the.
He couldn't even win the Armel Cup.
Yeah, well, but I want
actually,
the.
No, that score would have won the Armel.
I want the players whose seasons. I pretty much want those Titan-esque clubs out there to still feel like they have something to play for. So,
maybe we can put you in the Titans Cup against the Bashers next week or something.
Did you win your public league, mate?
I won both leagues actually that I'm in. So I think I'm up against I'm up against double Denman though soon. So in one of the other leagues, so I might be in a bit of strife.
Yeah, that was another league that I had him in with a few boys that a few other guys that I know. So you could be up against it this week.
No, I've got both weeks. I've got this week off in both other leagues because I finished second.
Have a go.
They must
Top
be
four.
so bad, those leagues. Holy shit.
No, I can tell. I probably think I'll finish top
Brent's
four in that one
Brent's
that he's
one.
in.
Yeah.
You gotta be
Wow.
kidding me! Like, have a
Wow.
go at it. Dead set.
The-
Fucking
The great stuff with head-to-heads. Yeah, it's crazy. All right, guys, but that's it for another week. Thanks for joining us. As always, give us a like, give us a subscribe on YouTube. Follow us on all the Supercoach and Facebook, Twitter pages, all that kind of rubbish. Leading into the pointy end of the season, mate, any final tips?
Get your captains right. Make sure your pods go well.
Munster?
Well, he has to crack 100.
Have you got Munster?
I don't even want to talk. I don't want to. Can we just fast forward past that Melbourne Titans game on Sunday? Because that name's going to. He's the one player this year that I haven't got in my side once, and I still don't. I'm a big fan of him, even though he's a smelly, rotten Queenslander, but that name just makes me cringe, especially this weekend. He's the one guy.
What if Gold
Shouldn't he
Coast
copped a
win?
week or something?
No.
He nearly copped a week. What were you going to say?
Yeah, no, you got it off. I said, what if
say?
Gold Coast win? But that'll never happen, will it? Gold Coast.
Strange things. What about that year? I think was it you blokes
Cronulla.
playing the Cowboys? The Cowboys
we're playing the Roosters.
Was it the Roosters?
We're playing the Roosters. It was back in about 2012 or 2013. We were playing the Roosters. We were $11, and I had 50 on my boys, and we got up 50, 11 pineapples.
Didn't it come down?
It was beautiful.
I thought it would come down to a point and you lost, and that was against North Queensland or something. Maybe it was another one that I'm thinking of.
That might have been something else. But no, the big
were like $12 or
$13. Yeah, loved it. Yes. So,
but yeah,
I can't
Munster
see that.
is the word this
Gold
weekend,
Coast is
bud.
rubbish.
I'm scared of that name. I'm hoping there's not a heap of guys that have him in the head-to-heads that I'm going to have to win, but I'm worried about having to cover him. What about you? What are you? Any concerns?
Mate, I've got to take it. Look, I've got to take Munster as captain. My biggest concern, TPJR for 5 weeks, is one of those ones that I was just trying to avoid because at the end of the day, with Tamalolo at risk, my second row stocks are looking pretty skinny. I think I've got Marty Tapau in there, Maddo, and Gerbo, who hasn't been setting the world on fire. So, mate, the second row stocks for me, pretty weak. Andrew Fafita I've got there as well in the front row. Mate, if Payne Haas wasn't there, I'd be really struggling. But mate, everyone's got him. So yeah,
3 weeks to go, bud. Not long now.
3 weeks to go. All right, guys. Thanks very much. Talk to you all next week.